Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be my mid-year book tag. I have tried to film this intro about like 4 times now, and something has interrupted it every single time, and now fireworks are going off. I simply do not understand why everything seems to just not want me to film this video. However, I need to film it because I need to edit it tomorrow so I can get it posted hopefully tomorrow, but if not tomorrow, then the next day, because it's time that I get a video out. So really hope that the fireworks aren't too loud and you can't hear them, and hopefully maybe they'll just stop altogether. But like I said, today is the mid-year book tag. I did this video last year and I've seen a bunch of different YouTubers currently doing it, so I thought that it was time that I do mine. So I'm sure you know how it works, but in case you don't, basically I have a bunch of questions or prompts kind of, and then I'm answering it with like the books that relate to it. So most of these questions I got from other YouTubers' videos like Rachel Catherine and Larry Reed's. However, some of them I've also just heard people ask me, but they also still might be ones that other people asked in their videos. So it might seem a little repetitive if you're watching a lot of these videos, but I know for me, even though sometimes the prompts are repetitive, a lot of times they're different answers because not everyone has the same opinion on, oh, what was their best book so far this year and stuff like that. So that's what today's video is going to be. I do want to preface though that I have only read 25 books so far, which is not great considering, well, I'm like on track for my reading goal, which is 55 books by the end of the year. However, it's like not great, like it could be better, so oh well. But I have read 25 books so far this year, so I know that some YouTubers at this point have read like 70. I don't think that will ever be me. I have too many other things that I do in my day-to-day life that I literally do not think I could ever read. Probably more than 50 to 55 books in a year, unless it was my full-time job, which for some people it is, and that's how they're able to do that. But this is not like a full-time job for me, so this is purely a hobby. So there may be duplicates, but I do try to not duplicate too much because then that kind of just gets boring if I'm like, oh, and this book, oh, and this book again, oh, and this book one more time. But anyways, enough with me rambling, let's just get into the video. Alright, so I just want to start off by prefacing, if you see me looking down, it's because my iPad is down here with all of the prompts and answers so that I make sure I grab the right books. So the first prompt is the best book that I have read so far in 2024. So this doesn't necessarily mean that it came out this year, it just means that so far the 25 books I've read, which ones were the best. So to kind of decide this, I just went through my reading journal where I track the ratings of all the books I've read, and I found all the 5 stars that I read this year, and I picked out of those which one I felt like was truly like the best. If I remember correctly, I had 4 5 stars, so it could be better, but also I'm not that picky on my rating. Like I know some people who literally like probably wouldn't even have 1 5-star at this point, or would only have 1, but for me, I'm not super picky, and it's just more of a feeling I get with 5 stars. Like, I don't know. It's hard to explain, but the book that I decided to go with was Saving Six, and then I also had to go with Redeeming Six by Chloe Walsh. So, if I really had to pick between these two, I think Saving Six would truly be my favorite. I just felt like the way that you're introduced to these characters and their story throughout this book, and you really just get to start with their trauma, like I'm not even sugarcoating that, in this book, I just think was super well done. However, I really don't think that you can enjoy that book as much if you don't read this one as well, and so I just feel like they always kind of have to go together for me. I can't really have one without the other, so that's why I ultimately did put these two together as my best book so far of 2024. So this is the third and fourth book of the Boys of Tommen series, or Boys of Tommen. I'm not exactly sure how it's pronounced. I've heard it pronounced both ways, but I've never heard the author pronounce it, so I don't exactly know which way is correct. But this is Joey and Aoife's book. So Joey is Shannon's brother, so Shannon is one of the main characters in the first two books of the series. And I thought that those were 5 stars, and then I read these ones and I was like, oh, we're wrong. These are the 5 stars. Those ones were like 4.7. Just said 4.7, 4.75. So, yeah, I don't know. There was just something about these books that like broke me, but in the best way. That sounds really dark. But they did. You will see these books again, but I think I only put them in here twice because I could have put them in for a lot of things, but I didn't want to because I was like, again, I already can't speak. I'm sorry, guys. I just talk so fast and sometimes I just trip over my words. So I'm just gonna move on to the next prompt because clearly this is just a sign that I need to stop talking. So the second prompt that I have for this video is the best sequel that I read this year so far. And honestly, this was kind of hard because I haven't really read a lot of like sequels this year. So I kind of just went with a book that was either second in its series or like I was trying to think, and that was really all I could figure out because that is what a sequel is. But when I think of a sequel, I like think of like a fantasy book because it's usually a continuous story. But I don't think I looked and I really don't think I've read a true sequel. So I just picked an interconnected standalone series that I've read the second book of that I really liked. And that is The Right Move by Liz Tomforde. So I know some of you are going to be really proud of me because I did read it this month, like I said I was going to. So I know. I'll pause and wait for your applause. I know. Thank you. But no, literally, I'm so mad that I put this book off for so long. It was so good, and I'm not going to get into extreme details on it in this video. That will have to wait for my reading wrap-up. But this by far has been the best book that I've read this year, besides Saving Six and Redeeming Six. This was one that was kind of up there. But definitely out of all of the interconnected standalones I read, I would say that this being the second book of the series is the best one I've read so far this year. So, okay, so the next prompt is the biggest surprise of 2024, and I really struggled with this one because I could have gone 2 ways. I could have either gone with I didn't think I was gonna like it that much and ended up really liking it, or a book that I thought I was really gonna like and then didn't. And honestly, I couldn't really think of any books that I thought I wasn't gonna like and then liked, but there was definitely, unfortunately, a book that I really did think I was gonna like, and honestly, and maybe this is gonna be a controversial opinion, I don't know, but I feel like I could have lived life either without reading or it could have just been like a novella, and that was If Only I Had Told Her. So again, this is a book that I read this month, so I'll get more into this in my reading wrap-up, which will probably be the next video you guys watch. But it just honestly didn't do it for me. I thought the whole book was going to be Finney's perspective, and it wasn't. It was just a part of it. And honestly, I feel like we could have just made this book like a novella with just his point of view. I didn't really feel like we needed the other characters' point of views because we got some of them in the first book, and then some of them just felt kind of like not, like it just didn't feel like it was needed. So that's why I would say this one's my biggest surprise, because I really was excited for this and thought this was going to be a great read, because I don't remember if it was a 5 stars or a 4.75 stars, but the first book I rated really highly and I really did like it, and like it made me cry at the end. I did not cry reading this. I didn't really feel anything while reading it, unfortunately. Obviously, like when the thing happens that makes you sad, like I did feel like, again, like kind of like ugh with it happening, but that was really it. Like I said, I feel like it could have just been a novella. Like, trying to find where it exactly like ended. His point of view ends here. That's how much of the book was his point of view. We could have just had a novella. That would have been fine. So that's why I picked this one as the biggest surprise. Because unfortunately, I did not like it. I'm really sad I did not like it, but I did not, so. Alright, so the next prompt is your favorite new author that you've read this year so far. So basically, some author that I haven't read before that I read this year, that is my favorite out of those. I don't think I had that many. There were really only 2 or 3 that I could think of that I've read this year that I haven't read before. And there were 2 that I was really going between. But I ended up going with an author that I actually just read an arc of her first book. So it is N.L. Amour. So she wrote a book called Loved by You. And like I said, I received it as a digital arc. And I read it and absolutely fell in love with the characters and the story and everything about it. And I had like posted something on my Instagram story about it. Like, I just was really liking it, and she like responded, and she was just super sweet and like didn't need to respond in any way. Like, there was no need for her to. I'd already read her book, like all of that. But like I said, she was just super sweet, and I absolutely loved the first book and cannot wait for the second book in the series. So that's why I picked her as the favorite new author for this year. I think the second book is coming out in the fall, so I am excited about that because that's like unfortunately right around the corner. I know it may not seem like it, but I know we're gonna be back in the fall in a blink of an eye, so I'm really excited about the second book. But I definitely think that she would be on the top list of my favorite new authors, so. Alright, so the next prompt is your newest fictional crush of 2024. So this was really fucking hard because every book that I read, even if I don't rate it highly, I usually end up at some point falling for the male character or sometimes the female character. I'm not gonna lie. I think I had a thought the other day and I really realized that I think a lot of the books that I rate highly, like 4.75, 5 stars, and the occasional 4.5, is usually when I like both characters. Like, with this series, Fourth Wing, I like love Violet and I love Xaden. Like, that's why they're ranked so highly. And like this series, I loved all of the couples and all of the characters. So like, I feel like that's where it helps with the higher rating, is when you actually like everybody. So this was really hard, but I ended up going with Ryan Shay from The Right Move. I absolutely adored him. I loved the way that he interacted with Indy, and I feel like, I'm not going to say what it is because it is a spoiler, but he learned something that relates to her personal life, and let me tell you, that was the sweetest thing I have ever read in a book. And when she finds out, it's like, oh my god moment, and I just loved it. So definitely Ryan. I honestly have not stopped thinking about this book since I read it, and I just absolutely fell in love with him. And then I also had to go with Jack from Loved by You, which was the book I was just talking about. And again, I can't get too much into detail because it is an arc and it isn't released yet. Except when you're watching this, it might be released, because I think it comes out on the 21st or the 22nd, I think. I don't remember off the top of my head. But when you watch this, you can go like look it up and see if it's available or not. But if you do go and it's not available, it'll probably be available within like the next couple of days. But he, oh my god, like, I loved him so much. It is a single parent trope. That's pretty much one of the main tropes of the book, and the way he interacts with these kids, I tell you, like, I've read so many books where a guy is with a girl and the girl has kids, and I don't think I read one where it was done this well, except for like one book, There's one book I can think of that was very similar, and that was Unravel Me by Becca Mack. I feel like those are like my top 2 single parent books. I just feel like they were done so well. But I didn't read Unravel Me this year. I read it last year. Yeah. So that's why I didn't include it in this. But yeah, Jack was just amazing, and he does kind of have Touch My Wife, I'll Kill You vibes, which we also love. So I would say that Jack and Ryan are definitely like my 2 newest fictional crushes that I have so far this year. So our next prompt is a book that made me cry so far this year. This was actually hard. It took me a second to think about it. And then I realized that there are 3 books that made me cry. One of them was Some Kind of Perfect by Krista and Becca Ritchie. So this is the last book in this beautiful entire series that is the Addicted Calloway Sisters series. And let me tell you, there was a few times in the, you know, just reading throughout the book that I kind of teared up a bit, but when I got to that last chapter, when I was reading those last words on the page, I mean, just tears started streaming down my face. Like, so, like, it caught me off guard. I wasn't even expecting to cry at the end, and then boom, there they were. So, yeah. Thank you so much, Krista and Becca Ritchie, for the tears. I appreciate it. And then the other 2 books, again, no surprise, but Saving and Redeeming 6 are also back on your screen. I cried in both of these books, but I definitely cried the most in this one. Let me tell you, the second that I found out, and this is kind of a spoiler, but kind of not. It's not really gonna, like, I feel like spoil too much of, like, the book's plot. But when I found out that Aoife was referring to their song as Iris by the Goo Goo Dolls, I fear I need to say no more. Like, I literally just, I kind of started sobbing when I read that because I was like, oh no. Oh no, Chloe Walsh, what are you going to do to me? And then proceeded to do what she did. So yeah, those were the 3 books that made me cry so far this year. Honestly, I feel like that's one of the things that's really hard to do for me. Not a lot of books make me cry. I can get really attached to characters and feel strong emotions, but there aren't a lot of books that can actually make me physically cry. So when those happen, they tend to stick. So yeah, like I said, it took me a second, and then all of a sudden I was like, girl, why are you even thinking? You know what books those are. But those were definitely 3 books that made me shed some tears so far this year. Alright, so our next prompt is kind of a fun prompt. It's actually not necessarily a book I read this year, but the most beautiful, or like, whether that's like cover-wise or like spine-wise, or like sprayed edges-wise, however you define a beautiful book. But the most beautiful book that you have either bought or received this year. And there are 2 books. It's a series, so I am putting them together. And that is the Bookish Box special editions of Fourth Wing, and hold on, Iron Flame. I actually literally just got this like 2 or 3 days ago in the mail, and let me tell you, my prized possession's right here. Like, when I tell you that if my house was on fire, this entire bookshelf would have to come with me. It's actually such a problem. I do honestly have a weird anxiety thing about it where I worry about these books getting damaged, but we don't have to talk about that. But yes, these are the 2, I swear, probably the most beautiful books that I own in my entire room. And I guarantee you there are people out there who would try to steal these from me. Like, I've seen the TikToks where people are like, oh, books that I own that I think would make people steal from me. Let me tell you, these 2 right here, I guarantee you would put me at top of some people's lists. But like, the covers are beautiful, and then here, this is the back of Fourth Wing, this is the spine of Fourth Wing, these are the sprayed edges, and then the back of Iron Flame, the spine of Iron Flame, and then the sprayed edges of Iron Flame. So it's just like, they're so beautiful and just so like important to me, so I feel like that's why it makes them almost more beautiful. But yeah, I have a lot of pretty books, but I think out of all the ones I received this year, that those are probably my most beautiful, because I'm pretty sure that these 4 right here, I received last year, if I remember correctly, which I may not be, but I'm pretty sure I got them last year, so I didn't want to count them because I was like, I can't remember. So that's why I ended up going with these, because I know for sure I got them this year. So Alright, so next prompt is a book that I would want to reread this year. And there are two books that are probably at the top of my list for rereads, even though every time I read a book, I look at my shelves and I'm like, oh, I loved that book, I want to reread it, to so many different books. But two that I really want to read for specific reasons are Throttled by Lauren Asher. So I have read this whole entire series, and for some reason I read this one, and then I went and read Collided, and I annotated Collided, which then made me annotate Wrecked and Redeemed, but I didn't annotate Throttled, because for some reason I just didn't when I first read it. Which, partially to be fair, these were some of the first books I read when I started getting into reading, so like I wasn't as like, how do I want to word this, anal about how I do things with my books, and like specifically like how I annotate them and things like that. But I do need to annotate it so that it can be annotated with the rest of them. Unfortunately, it won't be annotated with my first like reactions, but it'll be pretty close because it's been a while since I read it. But that's why I need to read this one, because I need to annotate it. And also, I just kind of want to read the Whole Dirty Air series because it's like my favorite by Lauren Asher. But I also have like other books I need to read by her and other books that I just need to read in general. So I don't know if I will read the whole series, but I know for sure I want to reread Throttled. And then I want to reread Wildfire by Hannah Grace, partially because it's my favorite book out of Icebreaker and Wildfire. But also I want to annotate this one because I read my arc, and I've never actually read the finished, finalized, published copy. And I'm sure there's like a few differences, but I don't think it's anything that I would really notice. It's probably more like grammar stuff. But I do want to annotate it like full on. Like I want to highlight and tab and all of that stuff. And I don't know if I'm going to do it before Daydream comes out because I don't know when I will reread it, but I do really want to because I absolutely adore and love this book. And I do honestly think about it all the time, which I think is why I want to read it so bad, because I'm like, I know that there are things I'm forgetting, but the things that I remember still make me so like excited about it. So the stuff that I'm forgetting that I'll read and then remember, it'll like make it 10 times better. So those are two books that I definitely would want to reread by the end of the year. The next prompt is books that I've been putting off. So it's not even necessarily books I've been putting off for 2024. It is just generally books that I've been putting off. But I did think about books that I've looked at, either what that means like I put them on a TBR or I've thought about reading them throughout this year, and there were two that were at definitely like the second I looked at them on my shelves, I was like, that's going in this category. The first one is Tell Me Lies. Again, I've put this on my TBR. I know I did last year and I know I have this year. And I do really want to read this book. I do think it's really an interesting topic because I've seen the show, but I've heard that the book was not as good as the show, which is weird. And I don't know if I'll agree with that or not. But then I've also heard from some people that they just did not like the book. Like they never watched the show, but they just did not like the book. So I don't know. I have to I need someone to talk me into reading this. If you've read it and you liked it, please leave in the comments why I should read this book, because I need some push when it comes to this book. And then the other book is actually a series. That's the 50 Shades of Grey series. So I have the whole series. I have the 3 books. I've not read them. I fear though, as a romance reader, and I'm gonna say this, and I know people are gonna be like, just because, you know, it's kind of a classic in the romance genre. Like, I know when I tell people that I read romance books, like, this is immediately what their mind goes to. They're like, oh, so you've read that. And I'm like, well, actually, no. But I am very curious. I would like to read these books and kind of see what all the hype's about, because there are some people that I know who really like these books, and then some people that I know have read them and were like, you know, it was an experience for sure. So I do want to read them, but again, I'm kind of intimidated by them, and I don't know how I'll feel about them. Oh boy, okay, yeah, this is why we don't flip through books and just start reading randomly, because then you end up on a sex scene. Have fun. I've also thought about like doing a reading vlog where I read this series because I think it would be funny to like see my reaction to things. But like, I don't know if that would be something you guys are interested in or not. So you can let me know down below if that's something you'd be interested in or not. But those are the two books that I think I look at on my shelf the most and are kind of like, no. So we have one last prompt, and that is, oh wait, sorry. We have two prompts. I totally forgot about the last one. We have two prompts left. So this one is anticipated reads for like the rest of 2024. So I picked reads that are either like literally have just been released or are going to be released. So the first one is obviously Daydream by Hannah Grace. I don't shut up about how much I love her and her books. And I cannot wait for this book. We, as a collective group of Hannah Grace lovers, have been waiting for this character to get his book, and it's finally going to be his book, and I'm super excited. And then I'm also looking forward to reading Dishonestly Yours by Krista and Becca Ritchie. This is their newer series that they're coming out with, and I just found them like 2 or 3 years ago, so I didn't read like this series and stuff when it was coming out, so I think it'll be nice to be able to read a series by them while it's coming out. And then, sorry, I got a notification on my iPad. It distracts me so easily. But then Love Unwritten by Lauren Asher. So that book actually came out yesterday, I think. But I have not received it yet in the mail. I pre-ordered it and it's not come yet. So for me, I'm gonna pretend it just hasn't come out yet so I can put it in the video. But that one for sure. I do have to read Love Redesign first, but then I will read that. And then Fall With Me by Becca Mack, which is the 4th book in the Playing for Keeps series, which oddly enough, I cannot like pre-order to match the ones I have. So I don't know what I'm gonna do about that. I'm a little confused, I'm a little concerned, I'm a little flustered. So Becca Mack, if you could explain, that'd be great, why I can't get the matching special edition like discreet covers for the rest of the series. Like I can, but not for this one. Yeah, so don't really get that, but whatever. Those I would say are probably my 4 most anticipated reads, honestly, for like the whole year, but specifically for the second half of 2024. So now it's our last prompt, and this one is books that I need or want to finish by the end of the year. So there are some books that I either know that if I do not finish by the end of the year, I probably will not read. And then there are books that I just want to have done by this year. So the first book, if I could pick it up, that'd be great, is Love Redesign, Lauren Asher. Obviously, as I just discussed, I'm excited for Love Unwritten, so I need to read this one first to then read that one. But also, I really do want to read this one. I finally finished the Dreamland Billionaire series because I was forcing myself to finish that before I read this, even though I know like technically you don't have to, but there's like probably like little like Easter egg things in there that you wouldn't understand if you didn't read that series. But I'm super excited for this one, and like I just love Lauren Asher and her writing. It's just so great. This book, if I don't read by the end of the year, I need someone to come to my house and take the book from me. That's Archer's Voice. I have had this book, I think, for like 3 years. Like, why have I not read it? I really don't know. I could not tell you. But I need to, because I have not read it and I have owned it for so long. Like, if I do not read it, I need to unhaul it, because it's just never going to get read at this point. And also, I don't know if you can tell, but I have a special like author's annotated edition from Barnes that I want to read too, because I'm curious like what the author's thoughts are, but I can't read that until I've read this. So like someone needs to kick me in the ass and get me to read it. This book I feel like I haven't been putting off for that long, but I really do want to read it, and that's Say You Swear by Megan Brandy. I got it for Christmas, and I just haven't read it. No reason why, I just haven't, but I would really like to read this before the end of the year. I've had two friends who have recently read it and loved it, and then some like people that I've seen talk about it recently who also really liked it. So I feel like I'll like it, so there's no reason why I shouldn't want to read it. And finally, the last book for this prompt of needing to finish a book. The fact that I'm holding this up in June is just upsetting to me. I should have read this in January. Why did I not read this in January? Or February, or March, or April, or May? I don't know. I really could not tell you. I loved Divine Rivals and was so excited for this. I have not done it. And now I've kind of lost that excitement. So I don't know. We'll see when I get to this, but like this is like the need of the entire pile. I need to finish this before the year is over. I hope that you guys enjoyed today's video. Again, these were just some prompts that I took from different YouTubers and different people who have just asked me questions generally. And any of the books here that you saw that I've read that you're like, I don't remember you reading that, I probably read them this month, and I will give a more in-depth like synopsis on how I felt about it in my reading wrap-up, which should be the next video. I hope that you are all having a wonderful day, a wonderful week, all of that great stuff. I will say I'm going to London at the end of next week. That starts my London trip. So I am going to try to get my reading my next video will not be my reading wrap up. I completely just blanked on the whole, TBR for July. So my next video will be a July TBR. So I will try to get that up before I leave for London. And then when I get back from London, I will do my June reading wrap up, which will be like a week or two into July, because like I said, I'm going on that trip and I'm not going to be trying to edit and post while I'm in another country. I'm going to enjoy my trip. So there might be a bit of a longer like space between videos than there have been in the recent like weeks. Just want to forewarn you all. But yeah, again, hope you guys all enjoyed today's video. If you did, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!